introduce you how to use Illustrator to draw things for this subject. So I'm just gonna show a few examples of what you can produce with the software, and you can see through those images, especially this one that is more to describe a morphology of city through different times, which is very similar to your assignment 1. So this tutorial is to introduce the basics of Illustrator. So if you already know how to use them, this might not be suitable for you. But as you can see, like how to draw lines and create shapes, how to change line width, colors, importing files, scale things, that sort of thing. I'm just going through those things, and as you can see from that. So now you need to open the Illustrator software, and then click File and New. Then you have this board that asks you to fill in a few things, like give a name, like document, just name it 1, and choose the kind of customer. Usually it's for print, and the number of artboards is about like how many areas that you can draw on. So let's just say we need 1 artboard, and in terms of size you may need A4 or A3, and units, millimeters or inches, depends on the map you're going to create. Orientation, we want it landscape, and then click OK. Now you have the artboard you need to start the drawing. So there are a few basic tools on the left: the selection tool, direct selection tool, the pen tool, type tool, lines, pencil, and I'm just going to introduce those things that you're going to need to draw the urban forms and urban stuff that you need for this subject. The most frequently used, I would say, is this pen tool. And they also have other selections or options that like add point, delete point, or convert other point. So you just click the basic one and then click on the white area, and then it starts to create lines. And for the selection tool, you can select the whole line together and move it around. But here what you can do is to select specific point with this direct selection tool. For example, you select this one, and then you can press the delete button on your keyboard, and then you can have 2 lines here. Another thing is line, which is just to help you drawing lines, but this pen tool is usually more flexible because you can draw stuff like curves and you can curve the line whatever you want. And that's basic things. Another thing is like the basic shapes, like squares. The ellipse, you just hold the shift button to make it circle, and polygon, and all kinds of shapes. I'm not going to do more, but with those shapes, what you can do, or those lines, what you can do is to change the color of them. You just go to the color, or just here above, like the top area. The top area you can select, like for example, orange color. But there's one thing, like in this area you can swap the colors. For like this one is to fill in the area, and this one is to control the stroke of this shape. So for that, you can also change the size of the stroke to, like, for example, thicker or thinner. What you can also do is to go to the stroke here, click show options, then you will have a number of things. For example, change the stroke to dashed lines, or to add thing. For example, click a line, you want to create an arrow, and you can change the size of the arrow, and stuff like that. So now you have a basic understanding of the stuff. Another thing is that for the colors, what you can do is to use this eyedropper tool, to click that and to pick the color for the one you want to fill in. It's pretty simple and direct. So for this one, the artboard tool is the one that you can change the size of your artboard, because at the beginning we set the artboard to a A3 size, and we can make it larger or smaller inaccurately, or we can do that accurately by changing the numbers above. For example, for an A4 we have 297 and 420. Now then you have a A4 sized artboard. So that's the basic about those tools. Another important thing is the layers. So layers is very important for drawing almost everything, because you need to have groups of elements in foreign space. Like you have streets, and then you have buildings, and then you probably have some other layers like trees, whatever you want to draw. But layers is very important. So now we have this basic layer here, then we draw, for example, some lines. Just get rid of the fill so it has no color. So then this line is drawn in this layer, and then we can close it so you cannot move it anymore, and then we can create another layer. And we can also change the name of that. Just double click that and you say, for example, streets. And then in the new layer, we say buildings. So here, what we have is a new layer that you can draw other stuff on it. For example, we have a few buildings aligning along this line or a street. And what you can do here is to have either create a new one, or for those one you can just click it and press Alt, and then you can drag it, which it automatically copies the things you've selected. So then you now have two layers. So for example, if you click this toggles visibility, whatever this shape, this eye shape, then you close it, and you only can see one layers, the straight layers, or you can leave that building layers on and then close the straight layer, and then you can start to manipulate them. And what you can do, you can also change them. Like if the building layers is on top of the straight layers, then everything in the building layers will cover the layers below them. For example, if we have, let's just change it to a normal line. If we have another street here, and what you can see from here is that the buildings are standing on top of this line. Now, if we change the color of those buildings, and then if we drag the building layer below to the street layer, and what you can see is that the street layer is on top of the building layer, and all the buildings are covered by this line. So it's pretty straightforward, and by doing this, now you can start to see a pattern or something that is you are creating a map by using this. And you can keep doing other stuff, like you want to draw some circles because they are different shapes or different forms of building, because in an urban area you will start to see a different pattern of that area compared to that one. So what you can do is to then manipulate those things by saying that a new type of form, and then you can start to like play around with those layers. And what else? And then those tools, and I think that's pretty much about the thing that you can use for your first assignment, or about the writings on this page. Let's say text. You have another layer here, and then you click this type tool and you start to drag it, and then you can choose the font, the style, and all the size, and then you can start to type in stuff like urban morphology here. Then what you can have here is this text layer, and normally you also need a layer of legend, like the scope of the map, which is very important. And then you can also have a kind of north point. You can just create something by yourself, and then you start to have more elements in this map. So there are the things that you can do with those tools to start making drawings. So also what you can do is to import some images. Let's see what I have here. I probably don't have. Let's just go to Google and find some images. Urban morphology. The internet is pretty slow. So, for example, you have this image and you save it on your desktop, and then you go to File, Open, and then go to Desktop, and then what you can have to find the image and open. Then you start to open this, and when you have this image, you can Control C and go back to the file you're working on, and then create another layer. And Control V. You can copy and paste this layer into this. Copy paste this image into this, or you can just start doing things in this new file. And also what you can do is to open some other stuff like a this version of my Illustrator is not really working, but what you can do is to select a cat file and open it, and you should be able to import that, because mine is has a little bit issue with that, but that's basically the things you need to know. Another thing is that with this pen tool, what you can do is to add points, and for those points you can use direct selection tool again and to change the form of the line, and or if you don't want them, you can just select this pen tool with the little line on top, and then can also this pen tool is probably the most useful one for drawing like streets and even buildings, I think, because often they are not like those squares in a regular shape. Yeah, so this is pretty much for the basic introduction of the tools you will need for your first assignment.